How's it going, guys? And welcome back to Retrospect, your go-to retro gaming podcast. You're listening to episode 55. We have a special episode for y'all today because on the mics, as always, we have my co-host with the most toast, Brandon Saltalamacchia.
Ooh, you know what? I'm not actually a toast fan. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
so it's a lie.
Too plain, too dry.
I just thought it rhymed. I didn't. You know, I thought nothing about the toast, but people like toasties over there. Have you had a toastie before?
Oh, I make a solid toastie.
And that's just like a grilled cheese, right? That's like a grilled cheese, right?
Yeah, but you need to add a little bit of chorizo, man. That's where the magic lies.
You call it chorizo? We call it chorizo.
What?
Yeah, chorizo.
No.
Chorizo, yeah.
You also call it basil and oregano.
Basil.
You guys are loco.
Whatever, man. Well, more importantly, we have a really cool guest on the podcast today, Jason Velazquez, a.k.a. GameBoyZero on the podcast. Jason, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, you can say it however you want, just like chorizo or chorizo. It's okay.
I'm going to say it wrong then.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Jason, if you've listened to this podcast that much yet, but there's a lot of times where Brandon will say something that I'm like, what is that word? What do you guys call the dump again?
The skip.
The skip.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like that sounds way better than the dump.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not a fan of it.
I'll take rubbish over trash any day. So
yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, if like someone's bad at a video game, Brandon, do you call them like rubbish or do you call them trash?
Yeah, I think because all of the content now that the UK consumes is very Americanized, so I usually say trash.
Wow. We're rubbing off on you guys. You're picking up the worst tendencies of the American language.
You and your basil.
Well, cool. So, Jason, before we go into the main topic, I think I'm going to make this like a common thing for all new guests because it's fun to know. So, at the top of the show, I want to know what is your favorite console and then your favorite game and why.
That's a question that I always ask myself and I always contradict myself. It's just back and forth. And like sometimes I'm Super Nintendo and sometimes I'm GameCube. But lately I've and hear me out. It's now retro since it's discontinued. Is the 3DS. I've been on the 3DS lately. And the 3DS is just such a great collection of where they get retrospective and they bring back some old goodies. And, for example, the Legend of Zelda, Ocarina and Majora, those are 64 games, which they repurposed for the 3DS. So I think I'm a 3DS guy right now.
Yeah. It's a shame that we don't have those remasters on modern consoles yet because like they're like the best way to play those old games. So when you go to like NSO on the Switch and you try to play Ocarina of Time, you're like, oh, this is aged.
It's tough. I tried to go back to Ocarina or rather Majora on the N64 and I'm like, oh, I just rather play on the 3DS.
And the 3D actually looks pretty good. I remember like the effect being pretty cool in some of those moments where like, you turn it on in the boss battle and you're like, oh, this actually looks kind of nice.
Right.
I didn't have it on all the time because like my eyes would start bleeding, but
forget it. Yeah.
Good time.
I recently picked up a 2DS actually because I test all these handhelds. None of them are really good at emulate. They can emulate DS games, but they don't have two screens, so it's completely fidgety. So actually, I found myself like forced to pick up a 2DS, and I think over the next few years, the 3DS and the 2DS are going to get a lot of love.
Agreed.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I think I saw you guys talk about there was a clamshell that got announced, or there was some kind of rumors of like another clamshell coming out. So
yeah, a Neo Flip. I think they want to turn it into a clamshell Windows PC. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see if that can happen. And then favorite game, if you have one, Jason.
Oh, that's another one. That's tough.
On the spot.
Yeah, but it's definitely, it's got to be Ocarina of Time. Going back to it, Yeah, Ocarina of Time. I could play that so many times, and you know what's cool about it is that people are they're redoing and remastering. I guess homebrewing is the term, where there's like these temple randomizers and these level randomizers that are pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
So it's a new experience every time. I haven't tried it yet, but yeah, Ocarina, just the music, the lore, the adventure, and it's the first 3D Zelda that actually was done very well. So that's got to be mine.
Like, can you imagine when Nintendo released that and how many other developers were like, "Son of a." Like, how are we going to
Seriously.
keep up with this? Like,
It was
how did they-
so good that they rehashed it on Majora with the same exact engine. Was it as good? Nah, but
they're like, run it back, run it back. People love this stuff.
Absolutely.
Same thing with Tears of the Kingdom. You know, they're like, all right,
Oh,
people like
yes.
Breath of the Wild, run it back. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome, man. So yeah, the main topic of the show for all the listeners is we're just going to have a chat with Jason about his channel, GameBoyZero, a little bit of history into, you know, how that all came to be, how that started. Because when we have guests on, it's always fun to, like, as much as we are retro gaming enthusiasts, you know, we're also, I would say Brandon also is, I mean, we're both in this realm, but Brandon, more so you know this world pretty well in terms of YouTube content creation and like videos. I'm sort of getting my feet wet more as I'm doing this. But there's something really encouraging and inspiring about other people's stories, as you know, even like as small as we are compared to other large creators and vice versa. You know, we've had some pretty big folks on this podcast, and it's just fun to talk about some of this stuff. So we thought it'd be fun to interview Jason, sort of. And Jason, sorry to put you on the spot to have you talk about yourself, but we promise we'll interject where we need to talk about other nerdy things as they come up, as I'm sure they will.
Sure. I told my wife, I go, yeah, I think I'm just on as a guest and we're just going to talk about stuff. And then when I saw, you know, oh, this is actually an interview, kind of, I got a little nervous. I was like, oh,
You've got the job.
yes.
Well, I initially had an outline where we were going to be talking about the Game Boy, because I was like, well, Jason, you know,
Sure.
Game Boy's in the name. He likes the Game Boy, I'm assuming.
Yes.
But then you know, we were like, let's shift this a little bit and just talk to Jason, because these episodes tend to be about 30 minutes. And spoiler or behind the scenes look, I have to be out of this podcast in the next 30 minutes because I have to go to work. So
Let's get to the juicy part.
I physically have to be somewhere. So with that being said, let's start at the very top. So Jason, I see that your video history goes back about 6 years. When did you first get started for GameBoyZero? Like, when did that all happen, and how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it was around 2016. I started GameBoyZero. Yeah, I started the Instagram and I started the YouTube channel because Wormy decided to put out something really cool, which was the GameBoyZero, which was a Pi Zero inside an old Game Boy. This was the Wild West of modification. You didn't go on AliExpress to get boards and this and that. And no, you cannibalized an old Game Boy. You cannibalized, you know, different TFT screens from some old GPS screen, and you modified it. So I started modifying, and I thought, hey, this would be great to to document. And if you go all the way back in my Instagram, all the way back in my YouTube, you'll see, you know, I talk about the GameBoyZero, and I start my build from there. And it was GameBoyZero wasn't taken, so I took it. So,
Nice.
You fools.
Yes, I Wormy, you can stick with your name Wormy, but
Yeah. This is mine now.
but yeah, I started at 2016, and not to get too dark, but I was depressed. I moved from Pennsylvania over to Florida, and I was having a little bit of a grieving moment. And I was trying to figure out my identity and many things. You know, I'm an avid, you know, I'm very involved in the church and the community, and you know, I'm a graphic designer here and media designer there, and I'm a husband and a father, and I was still struggling with just an identity, and I'm not saying that GameBoyZero is my identity, but it did help to relieve some of that stress of the move and trying to figure out myself. And I found a great community on Instagram and on YouTube. And that's what helped me start the entire thing. Believe it or not, this channel that I have now is not my first channel. It's actually my second one, because the first one, it got deleted by a good friend of mine. He remains my best friend. And
Okay. So you're not enemies. That's good.
And it was a small mistake where he deleted it. It was a channel going to 20,000, and I was actually making some sort of income from it. And it all went poof. So those videos you see there are re-uploads. The biggest video I have, is the GameBoyZero video, which I think has like 200,000 views.
Wow.
But yeah, it's actually a re-upload. It should have been in the millions possibly if it was still up there.
It reminds me of like, have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, like Uncle Rico's like kind of reminiscing about like, it's like, oh man, it's like if I had gone state, if I had gone pro, like I'd be throwing football.
See how far that video went?
Yeah, I'd be throwing footballs over these mountains. Let me tell you something. Although in your case, I feel like that's probably true, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. I did get my YouTube check eventually, a year later. Because they couldn't find me. They didn't have my information. They did try to get my channel back. But
at least they tried.
It was
at least they tried.
It was gone. Yeah. See how hard they tried.
I had something similar of my first YouTube channel when I must have been like 16, 17. And I was pretty close to 20K as well. And I think I did something stupid where you delete an email associated with a YouTube account that has like sub channels. And yeah, it's the same, just disappeared into oblivion, which is a shame.
They should make that more clear. Like, there should be some extra clear notifications when someone's about to do that. Be like, hey, quick heads up. By deleting this email, you actually are deleting your YouTube channel and everything else. Yeah. Like, do you want to add another email to this YouTube channel so you don't lose this? Like, that should be they probably are thinking like, if they delete the channel, we don't have to pay them as much. Perfect.
You're making a rubbish choice here.
You're making a rubbish decision.
Damn you too.
So I think one thing that Brandon initially noticed was your shorts have been great. Are those also all just recuts of your existing videos? Like, you're just kind of going through and re-editing them for vertical format and shorts?
Not all of them. Maybe 2 or 3 of them were. The idea is, so I have a setup here that's very easy for me to make a video. I can do a short in less than 15 to 20 minutes. And nice. If I have a content, or if I have an idea, I've been kind of spewing on Analogue recently. If I have an idea and I just want to share it, I just boop, done, Final Cut. I use my phone, I airdrop it and I upload it. And it's been fun. Shorts are fun, super fun.
Yeah, and there is such a specific algorithm for them, and I can see that you've almost nailed it down. They've got like the ASMR stuff, the quick editing, which I see your footage is doing. So once you tick all those boxes, you have a higher chance of success than I feel like you do on long form. Long form is just kind of you're throwing darts at a dartboard, blindfolded.
Right. Yeah. One of the secrets I found is handheld emulators have a nice little algorithm that if you just jump on that train. I just put up an Anbernic, I think it was a 353 VS, and it's not a short, it's a reel, but the reel got like 250,000 views, and I'm like, what?
Dang.
Can we transfer that to the shorts?
Yeah.
Please. I saw that YouTube just added the feature to link back to your long form content or like related videos, which is nice. But yeah, discoverability, I feel like on Instagram is still pretty high, maybe because there's not as much of that on there yet. That would be my thought. And also, I feel like emulation is kind of like the voodoo topic right now, where it's starting to become more popular amongst the retro community, and more people, like even in communities that I wouldn't think would be talking about them. So like IGN, they have a show called Game Scoop that's been going for a very long time that I've enjoyed. And in that community, there was a guy like he had the RG4 405. I don't know, like the square one. I think Brandon that you guys just did a review on. This,
oh, what the oh yeah, oh that was a Pow Kitty.
Maybe it was Pow Kitty. I can't remember. It looked just like that though. It looked nice, and he was like playing Super Mario World or something like that on there, or no, Golden Sun, and he gave like a whole review, and I was like, oh man, people are playing a lot of emulated games these days. It seems so. I don't know, man. It's catching on.
It is. Well, after this, although I do work from home on Tuesdays, I volunteer as a teacher for my children are homeschooled. We're part of a co-op.
Oh yeah.
So I got to pick my subject, and it just happened to be video game history. And I'm teaching all these kids, hey, these are like good books. These are not video games. These are good books. These are stories. These are adventures. Hey, open up the Chronicles of Narnia and go and read. It's just that's what it feels like. So it's getting popular again, especially within the youngins, the youths.
The youths.
How old are you, Jason? If you don't mind me asking.
I am 38. I'll be 39 in January.
Nice.
A good age.
We're in this age where we've seen the growth of video games. We probably weren't there for the birth, but we've seen it go from like a nerdy little thing that isn't too popular to now just being in every single household. It's crazy.
Yes.
Dude, I wish that I had a teacher growing up that was like, hey, you can take my video game history class. Like,
it's the biggest class too. And they were like, do you want to put a cap on it? I was like, I'd hate to put a cap on it, and the one kid that can't make it. So yeah, absolutely.
So how many people are kids in your class?
So there's 16 kids.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good size.
Yeah, it's a good size. It's overwhelming. I'll be honest, because they all want to play.
Everyone chill.
Yeah, it's like I want to do like what's it called, the 5 loaves 2 fish miracle, and just multiply video games for them all, and so they can all enjoy it. And I get them all to play a video game. Last week was 8-bit week. Today is 16-bit week, so I'm bringing a Super Nintendo in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That is
awesome,
so
man.
cool.
That
is so cool. I was trying to think of other games that are like multiplayer, but a lot of people can play, and it's like you have Smash Bros. Maybe and Jackbox TV, or if you like set up like a LAN party, I guess you could like connect a whole bunch of consoles maybe for like the online stuff. But
I'm running Turtles in Time. Is that 4-player?
That's 4-player. I think
Is
so.
it?
Yeah.
Right.
I think it should be. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, we'll try. We'll figure it out today. I'll let you know.
Yeah, dude. That's so cool, man. That's awesome. So another thing that we noticed, you mentioned this before we started recording, but you have a lot of Nickelodeon things on your channel. So, where did that come from, or what's the tie to Nickelodeon, I guess?
Growing up, you were either Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, or if you couldn't afford either the channel, you might be PBS, which is like the Sesame Street, and one of the freer channels. But growing up, we weren't well off, so we didn't have cable. The only time we got to watch cable was when we stayed with our grandparents, and I love my grandparents for this, because when we stayed there for the week, it was Nickelodeon and it was Cartoon Network, and this was around the golden age of Nick and Cartoon Network. Rest in peace, Cartoon Network.
In pieces.
Yeah. So. You were one or the other, and for me it was Nickelodeon. It was coming after school, because I would come from school to my grandmother's house, and we would watch for the 3 hours before my parents picked us up to go home. Was Nickelodeon. So we watched Wienerville, we watched Guts, we watched believe it or not, even though I have Chucky back here, Rugrats was my least favorite. But the colors, the green, the orange, and the purple just always got to me. And then you had the pièce de résistance, which was All That and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Those two were, that was Snick. That was Saturday Night Nick.
I love that. Snick.
Yes, Snick. And that was for like the older crowd, right? So when I was 12, that was my prime, and I was just eating that stuff up. And Are You Afraid of the Dark really is my top Nickelodeon show.
Too
which
spooky
has
for me.
What was that?
Too spooky for me.
Yeah, that intro, huh? That intro was always so spooky.
Yeah.
It was cheesy. It was very, it was just your good old Canadian actors just doing really just doing the best that they could, and you love that Ryan Gosling is in there. It's just some really top notch, gold there. Recently, I've discovered Creeped Out, which is a BBC program, which is very Are You Afraid of the Dark? Has a lot of good. It has the fingerprints there, and that's I've been into that lately because of that. But yeah, Nickelodeon, man.
So it's funny because I do feel like from the period that you're talking about, and then like up to like maybe like 2000, maybe a little bit into 2000s, like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network were the thing. You had so many spin-off like Boomerang on Cartoon Network for like all the old school anime stuff, but like my Nickelodeon experience was like just a little bit different. So for me, like it was Hey Arnold. I was super into like that show, Rocket Power, Real Monsters. I pulled some other the Wild Thornberries. They all had similar like art styles, especially like Hey Arnold or Rocket Power and Wild Thornberries. I think it may have been the same animator.
Right.
But like Rugrats was a crossover, and I just remember being like the characters all felt so distinct, and like if I had to pick one favorite from that era, for me it'd be Hey Arnold. I just loved that setting. I love that Arnold had this like badass upstairs room,
the music
you could convert with like a fold out bed in the couch and like the whole glass ceiling or whatever. And I was like, dude, this is it. I want that bedroom, And as a kid, you're just like, like my imagination was like running wild. I was like,
that was like toward the end of my cartoon era, when especially Rocket Power. Rocket Power I just couldn't get into, and I was just like, I'm too old for this now. I started looking elsewhere, girls and whatever, So I was just focused on other things. But Hey Arnold, especially the music, go look it up. The actual artist, I forget his name, but he has an album, the one who did the Hey Arnold music, and that's like that jazzy,
so
upbeat.
Smooth.
Oh yeah. Ooh, good stuff.
Brandon, how about you, man? You got any Nickelodeon faves?
I was a Cartoon Network boy. I don't know if this was just like a UK thing, but Nickelodeon didn't kick off till like maybe early 2000s, whereas Cartoon Network had a huge footprint in the UK. So I was like born on Ed, and Eddie, Johnny Bravo, the Cow and Chicken, Powerpuff Girls. I actually really dig that when I was a kid.
Yes.
I did too, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So Nickelodeon.
Can't forget Dexter.
Yeah, Dexter's Lab.
Ed, and Eddie was pretty cool. Yeah, I've said that one. But Nickelodeon, I think we had like, is it Jimmy Neutron and like SpongeBob? That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
from what I can remember.
Great.
Well, we can't forget Ren and Stimpy though. Ren and Stimpy pushed the envelope when it came to.
I wasn't allowed to watch Ren and Stimpy. My parents were like, "Nah, you're not watching that."
This is where you realize, MTV has a hand in with Viacom and what kind of content goes out there. I was like,
yeah, that one. The animations in that one were so gross. There were like just so many like pimply like hairy butts that they would just like animate into that show. And my parents like saw that once and they're like, no.
Even Johnny Bravo was a little bit like cringe at points. Now you look back, you're like, what the hell were they showing these kids? Like Johnny Bravo just hiding in bushes with binoculars, like looking at the woman, you're like, what the hell is going on?
Not sure if that would get the pass today. So
yikes.
that was a fun trip down Nickelodeon / Cartoon Network lane. Thank you for that, Jason.
Yeah,
this is all a result of you being a fan of Nickelodeon.
Come on.
Come on, stop. All right, so let's talk a little more about emulation. So I actually had to look up the GameBoyZero because I was not familiar with that emulator. Okay. So thank you for that quick little history lesson. So I'm assuming that was the first emulator that you picked up?
No, on the contrary. So in 2007, we'll go all the way back there. I had a little itch. Yeah, 2007. And I was still collecting around that time. I had a Nintendo with about 40 games, an NES, excuse me. And I had that itch to play, but I didn't. Of course, you don't want to carry anything, and emulation was still very, very young at that time. So I had this telephone. It was a T-Mobile Dash, which is T-Mobile's version of the BlackBerry. And I saw somewhere that you can put an NES emulator on there. And what better device than your phone to kind of just
Damn.
play. And it had the D-pad, and it had your QWERTY keyboard was your D-pad and your A and B. And I loaded an emulator on there, and it was, I forgot what it was, like NES Ultimate or something like that. It was some strange name. But yeah, you can do that on most of the HTC products at that time, including the Wing, and the G1, which was another phone that they had. I worked at a music store at the time, and my T-Mobile Dash got swiped, unfortunately. But
No.
yeah, but that was my first like real, experience. And then moving forward, when I got married in 2008, we took a flight to Spain, an 8-hour flight. What are you gonna do? Well, I had an emulator on there on my computer. And I remember people looking at me, and I'm playing, and they're just looking. Oh, is that Super Mario World? And I'm like, well, yes, it is. And you felt like you had this like air about
Come
you, like,
into my class. I will teach you.
Let me show you the ways. Yeah, emulation has been part of most of my adult life, and I don't think it'll ever go away. It's such a taboo thing, right? It was more so before, but emulation, that was my first experience.
And now you've got an analog pocket, right? I've seen your Game Boy stickers on it. You've picked it a little bit.
The normal analog pocket.
Not the glow in the dark one.
Trash.
Are you one of the 150 people that managed to grab it? Oh, don't get me started, man.
Let's not talk about it.
I know the guy as well. His name's Chris. I know the founder. We've talked now and then.
Okay.
I need to watch what I say, but I wasn't happy with the whole process.
Yeah. I'm my wife is the same way, because she's like, you're not being a provocateur. I'm like, no. I'm not starting any trouble. I'm not. I know we're talking about emulation, but we want to skip to the analog topic here. I'm careful because I love the company. Yes. I love what they do. The FPGA scene is blowing up when it comes to emulation. Just so, not sure if you're aware. But there's a difference between emulating software and emulating the actual hardware, and that's why Analog is so good. And I feel like I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just assuming that they feel they get a pass because they make such a good product. They could just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And at the expense of our hearts being broken. Yeah. So I don't think they're doing business fairly or well. And that's a little loaded, right? That comment, because they can do whatever they want. They have the right. And the money speaks. They're popular. It's a good company. But man, yeah, I don't agree.
This is why I think I'm so passionate and emotional about it, because their products are phenomenal, and I want all their products. I'll even pay them for their products,
Sure.
But the way they put it on sale, and you can see just 3 minutes after the glow in the dark one went up for sale, there's about 50 units on eBay instantly. So there are some sense of, scalpers, and I don't know how they get around it, but it would be good for them to try and get around it. But again, I don't think they, like you said, they don't need to. They'll just sell them to anyone.
Yeah, it's I put up a video last night about it, because I did a 1-minute review, and some people had a little bit of some negative things to say about my video. They thought I was kind of fishing for views and stuff like that. I'm like, no, a lot of my points are valid, regardless if they said they had very limited quantity. I wanted to know how much, in terms of the analog glow. How many do you have, and why 2 per customer? Why not 1 if it's limited? That's not fair, because now you go on on eBay, and you're gonna find them from anywhere from $700 to $800. And I even saw one for $5,000, and I'm like,
oh Jesus!
I'm like, scalpers, you scoundrels, and
you are the worst.
They are, and but while I don't like it, I do respect the hustle. I'm like, hey, it's a business. As a businessman, I can appreciate it. Is it nice? No, it's not nice.
I still want to get an analog. I had one pre-ordered that was supposed to ship in the start of the year, and then I ended up getting a oh gosh, I'm blanking on all the names, RG35, and then I also had a Miu Mini. And so I was just between those two, I feel like I'm going to get the experience I want in terms of playing some of these games that fit this format, this Game Boy feel. And so I was like, I don't know if I need this right now for the price that it is, because I think when I pre-ordered this, it was going to be after tax and shipping, it was like over $200 something, and I was like, but yeah, I still want one. And I looked recently, and it just says out of stock. Like there is just no shipping date, like pre-order at all. It's just like you're just not even going to get one now. So I was like,
it's sad as a Game Boy, or rather an enthusiast for people experiencing, or what's the better term? I'm just an advocate for
historian.
Yeah, you're just holding on to the memory of something that was just so good, right? Analog does that well, right? All their products. I have their NT from 2015, which is the original 300 only, with real Famicom and real NES innards. So ever since that, I had a taste of the glory, and it was just like, oh, this is how you uphold, the memory of something that was just so good. I want everyone to experience that. I don't think it's fair that you can limit that. Products like Anbernic and Retroid and all these other great emulator third-party companies, they do it really well, man. It was such a bad time back in the day when you would just get like this cheap little Game Boy emulator and it just played like this weird music when you turned it on.
Off-brand version of Mario on there. You're like, what?
Oh,
what is this?
It's like, why is Sonic running and stomping on Goombas right now? But yeah, with these new devices, like you're saying, that's a great way to enjoy it. But analog, there is something about holding that pocket in your hand.
I know. It looks so nice.
There's a difference. I think the most comparable one would be the RG35XX.
That's what I have.
Yeah, which I think that is the most, but it's just you hold the two, it's just not the same. Not the same.
Doesn't look as good either. However you have yours is set up really nice. I love the way yours, the skin you put on there case to make it look like a retro Game Boy.
Yeah, I worked with Slick Wraps on that. I designed it myself, and
sick.
Yeah, not didn't want to like just throw that out there, but if you go over there and check it out. Yeah, you use code GameBoyZero and save 15%. So
that's great.
Yeah, check it out.
GameBoyZero, check it out.
Yeah,
that's so cool, man. Yeah, hopefully one day I'll get an analog. We'll see. So going back to your channel a little bit, what's the dream goal, or if you have any sort of plan or idea on what you want your channel to be, what is that?
I have no idea. I really don't. That's a great question, because my goal in life, it's just, this channel and what I do is just an extension of who I am. And if anybody gets to know me or my heart, they know that I'm just someone that likes to share joy. So ultimately, when somebody comes to my channel, I had someone recently that was having a week of like EKG or some sort of test on their brain, and they were mildly just sad and being away from their community and family, and just being and they told me that their videos uplifted them throughout the week, and I'm like my videos did that. That's so cool. I appreciate it.
I'm just nerding out over here. Like, I didn't think I was going to be making this impact,
but to know that I have that power, it's very satisfying, because I want to help people. I want to educate people. I didn't know Silverhawks was a show that was, associated with Thundercats, one of those things. It's like, yeah, it was, wow, top 5 musics from these show. I forgot all about that, but you just reminded me. There's something about when somebody sees a Game Boy that they completely forgot about the Game Boy, and they hold one in their hands and they just light up and they remember something. I think that is my ultimate goal when they watch my videos or see even my posts on Instagram. So I guess that's it. Yeah.
I love that.
There's magic in the emotion of nostalgia, and I think your content does that really, really well, from the editing to the colors you use to the information, the research, and that's why I love your content. It's just, you just go down into a nostalgic hole, and you're in there for a few hours, and you come out like, whoa, what the hell is a whole new world?
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, like, Brandon, like you you're one of the people that I actually, would watch and say, I want to do that. There are only a few people that I can name off the top of my head. One of the first would be Rhett and Link. I first, and I have their microphone, like I love them so much. And then from there, I went to Black Nerd Comedy. And then, Black Nerd Comedy got me into, retro gaming. I can do this. And then going into a channel like Retro Dodo was like, this is what I like. And when you take emulation and you make that part of a, broad part of your content, I'm like, okay. So I thank you. The fact that I get to hang with you guys this morning is like, hey, this is a dream come true. And it's like such a maybe a humble dream, a simple dream, but it's substantial for life, I think.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And you are welcome here whenever you want. We'll have to get you on for a second episode because Jake's got to run to work. But I appreciate you coming on, man. And the last question we've got is, what's one piece of advice you'd be given that's helped in creating your content and making it the way it is?
Retro Rick, he's a nice friend of mine. I don't know if you've
Good
seen
name.
his. He's
Yeah.
a good dude. We talked often. When he was a nobody, we were talking, and now he's like blown up into. He has his own store over in Arkansas. But we were chatting one day, and he said, "We're the old guys in the crowd now." He's like, "When you do content, you have to be quick." Get to the point. Nobody wants to hear your story. Nobody cares. So I was like, ouch, that hurts. And he's like, that took a lot, a long time to, to really just hear that and instill it. But that's been the best advice that I can get, because I think I already had good content and good quality in what I deliver. And I don't say that boastfully. I just, it's just something that I have. And I took his advice and just said, just be a quicker storyteller. It's efficiency, right? In time. Don't, George Clooney said in Ocean's 11, and Frank Ocean in his character, he says, don't use 7 words when 4 will do. And I think that's great advice.
So true. I mean, true.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Well done. Went from 2 to 1, Brandon. You're doing it.
50%, that works.
Well, that's great, man. This has been a really fun episode to kind of just get to know you, Jason, and kind of some very heartwarming, well said statements came from you. And I imagine there are many people in our community that would love to hear that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we thank you for your time. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask before we jumped off, what are you playing? So, Jason, start us off. What have you been playing lately that you want to tell us about?
Mega Man X2.
Ooh,
yes,
good choice.
Yes, not X or X3, not even X4, X2,
and not X, not the original.
Yeah, not X. I always go back to X, and I'm like, I played this already. I beat it. I keep forgetting, but X2. The whole X series is just really good, and it has one of my favorite. Is it X2 has Zero in it? I forget.
Zero shows up in X, but I don't know if you can play as him or not in X.
Yeah. But X2 has been a great platformer. I think it's solid game, man. Great music.
Good music. I love the incremental upgrade system that they added in X. So Mega Man up to that point, you were kind of just Mega Man and you got some cool powers. But when they gave you like the dash boots and like the ability to crush things with your head, and I was like, oh, okay, this is it. Like I'm gonna go find all the upgrades now. That was
so good.
So much replayability too, going back to your other levels to like find the secrets. Like, I love that.
Absolutely.
Love that. Brandon, what are you playing, dude?
I'm blaming it on you this week because I pulled the trigger on Sea of Stars.
Yes.
Not one I thought would tickle my fancy, but it did. The whole retro-inspired theme. I've put like 10 hours into it, and I've only had it for like a week.
Yes.
So I'm really enjoying it. It's just so colorful, nostalgic, and most importantly, the one thing you said that sold me on it is cozy. I'm fed up of playing with kids on Apex Legends and them absolutely smashing me. So I need something cozy. And my partner would agree that I need something a little less stressful.
Yeah. Sea of Stars is definitely that game. Did you get it on PS5 or what'd you pick it up on?
I went handheld, man. I went for the Switch.
Good choice.
Beautiful.
I think I have some regrets getting it on PS5. It was on the subscription that I have, so I was like, well, it's free. I might as well get it there. And it's same thing for me. I've been playing Sea of Stars and like love everything about it. The only thing that I've had one gripe so far about is the music. If you're in certain areas long enough, it starts to get really annoying. Like, I don't know if you've run across that. Maybe you haven't noticed it, but there's one area that I was in and I was like, I am tired of this theme. I am tired of hearing this theme repeat over and over.
Whereabouts have you got to?
I think it was like the Moors section, like right after you leave town. There was like the Moors section where like, it's like, doo, 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 and it just does that over and over and over again. I'm like, I gotta get out of here fast.
I gotta bounce.
I gotta go. I'm about to go insane. But yeah, other than that, so good. So hopefully you'll be able to finish that one, Brandon. Me too.
I hope so too. I'm smashing through it. Like the puzzles are somewhat easy. I'm just an absolute genius at these kinds of games. I totally haven't put on the 100% damage reduction yet. Totally, there's like a relic, isn't there, that you can turn on?
Yeah, definitely not using any of those easier mods.
Yeah,
well, cool.
Love it.
That's awesome. Well, unfortunately, all that is all the time we have this week. Thanks for listening, and be sure to write into Retrospect at retrododo.com or comment on your preferred listening channel to just like Fluff It King on Spotify did when we asked, how would you introduce a kid to gaming? And he said, or her, she said, get them a retro console like an NES or Master System and hope they still work. Then build up to an SNES Mega Drive for the next Christmas. Is that a good strategy?
Yes.
I think so.
I like it. Fluff It King, thank you so much for writing in. We appreciate that. Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me at GameBoyZero on Instagram or GameBoyZero Official, I think, on YouTube, or maybe at the local Publix over in Florida. Yeah.
Love it. Love it, dude. I love Publix. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, yes.
It's one of the best. Brandon, how about you, sir?
Retro Dodo everywhere. And just to give a little bit of behind the scene info, I am currently building out our premium section of Retro Dodo. It'd be like a monthly subscription. You get a load of goodies, no ads. You get a welcome kit. You get a load of free stickers. You got a coaster. But most importantly, an invite to our yearly meetup in the UK, which I want to make super badass. Maybe in like a barcade. Loads of freebies. Get to test a load of handhelds and retro consoles and just make it kind of like a big retro gaming meetup, hopefully. But there's still a lot to work on. I'm hoping that'll be launched in January.
We got to brand that. You got to brand that. Brandon that. Brandon that.
Put a brand on that.
Yeah,
Jason,
I might call it like
words.
GameBoyZero. So I might just take that old channel, resurrect that one.
Clever.
GameBoyZero.
Free 20,000 subscribers. Easy.
Yeah, seriously.
That's just how it works. All right. And for me, it's just BitBloggist everywhere. I got nothing to plug, but thank you again for listening. And until then, we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Adios.